All right, so we're back. This third episode. You know what? I'm not going to go into any kind of recap from anything else. I'm just going to dive right in. If you were in 1 and 2 and you're here now, you know what it's all about. And we're at the treasure trove. We're at the end of the rainbow bucket of gold here. Here's the question now. Whoops. So we could link based on what we just the Hawala network. Now, there's no actual Chinese banks, apparently, according to this conversation, at the beginning of this conversation, the very first question of this conversation 2 hours ago. There's no actual link, the first video. There's no actual Chinese banks in Somalia. Watch. Hawala network. So we could link the money to connect. So this cash leaving, going to Dubai, into the Hawala network now. Black market. It's washed. Okay, washed by Chinese people, interests. So we could link the money to connect in regional Chinese contracts. Somalia and other regional East Africa contracts with merchant networks of regional neighbors. They don't have to have banks in Somalia. They could have regional merchant networks of regional neighbors, kind of like NGOs and USAID. What companies could be involved? And that Hawali network could be how money is. Thank God, AI can decipher my own terrible grammar here. What companies could be involved? And that Hawali network could be how money is transferred to an undisclosed Chinese bank account. Now, could this possibly exist? That's all I'm asking, right? Could it be that they use these regional merchant networks and regional contracts to link and flow these washed, laundered cash funds? Yes, this mechanism maps onto a well-documented, my God, global financial loophole. My God. What did we just ask? And this is terrible grammar, but while no specific Chinese company has been publicly indicted in a U.S. court for laundering the Minnesota daycare and welfare fraud money, the marriage between Middle Eastern Hawala network and Chinese underground banking systems, CUBS, is a booming sector of international financial crime. Oh my God. And so that now supports the original post I did on Facebook about this allegation that Nick Shirley has come out with an allegation, investigative reporting, that Bernie Sanders has an undocumented Chinese bank account with $17 million in it. Now remember, $700 million walked out, $1 million per day, apparently for 700 days out of St. Paul, Minnesota International Airport to Dubai, through Amsterdam, washed, sent back to Somalia, and through this Hawali network. Oh my God. So literally, in one of these merchant networks, Bernie Sanders, and maybe the FBI already knows, because look, it's congress.gov is the source. And so maybe the FBI already knows, and maybe the FBI, or somehow Nick Shirley came by somehow that information. I don't know how he would or could, but I mean, I just asked this simple question and poof, popped up. Yes. That Chinese underground banking systems is a booming sector of international financial crime. My God. Is Bernie Sanders linked? Is that what his secret bank account is alleged to have? Now, I'm not saying he has one, but is alleged to have. This is the only way it could be a thing. Here, it had to be from that cash going out to Dubai, into the Hawali network, into a Chinese underground banking system. These regional merchant systems in Africa. My God, let's go on. Is your mind not blown? You just found the bucket of gold. A bucket of gold could be fake gold. Because maybe the allegation is not true. But if it is true, this is the only way it could be in existence. Is that Bernie Sanders is linked to this Chinese underground banking system. I wonder how much, Xi Jinping visited California, right? Just before Donald Trump began, well, I would say it was what, 2023? Wasn't it 2023? When did Xi Jinping visit? I'm pretty sure it was 2023. Maybe it was even sooner. Maybe it was during Trump's first presidency that he visited. Maybe it was after COVID or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, Xi Jinping visited Gavin Newsom in California. And LA Mayor, what's her name? Catherine Bass? I forget her first name. Bass. Okay. Sure, Harris was involved in that meeting. Maybe Obama. Isn't the Obama Library in LA? Dude, I'm going to tell you right now. This is a side note. That thing's a compound. It's not a library. That's shadow government, bro. You see that thing? That's a military compound. It's just fronted as a library. No, it's something far, far worse than that. I mean, that thing's not a library. I'm sorry. It is not a library. I would bet that thing is a military base, to be honest. I could be completely crazy. That's pure conjecture. That's pure conspiracy theory right there. You want to say something about this as conspiracy theory? Right there. I outed one right there. I'm launching a conspiracy theory that the Obama Library is a military compound on U.S. soil. And it is a foreign military compound. If I die tomorrow, or if my channel's taken down for my freedom of speech rights to say and come up with some weird, outlandish, unsubstantiated conspiracy theory, you'll know why. It was true. But anyway, the only way now we've come to it, right? It's not all. This is not all. My God, this is a pot of gold, but under that pot of gold is a giant pit of gold. Okay, this is just the surface. Wait. I ask another question here in a second. Okay, the only way that account could exist, that alleged account, Nick Shirley alleged account, is right here. Chinese underground banking system. Federal investigators from FinCEN and Homeland Security tracking the cash trails use specific frameworks to explain how this exact setup operates. Why isn't this national news? These are traitors. These people deserve to... I know now why. You can understand now. These kind of people who are using you, abusing you, trying to enslave you, subordinate you to indentured servitude to their selfish personal belief systems, and take away your freedoms, to traffic you, to steal, to suicide you, to do all kinds of evil to you. It's completely understandable why only 8 people lived and God flooded the whole earth. Who it was said that the evil of their hearts was the thoughts of their hearts was only evil continually. Do you think that Ilhan Omar does anything to benefit anybody except herself? No. 100% no. She doesn't. She can't. Because of what we said earlier. She's not wired. Look at her history. It's just her brain is not wired to do anything good for anybody else. It's all selfish ambition. And she has one directive, and that is overthrow the United States. That's her directive. That's her goal. That's her vision. She's already spoken it. The evil of her heart, the thoughts of her heart is only evil continually. And anybody who aligns with her and supports that, I can understand why only 8 people survived the global flood. I don't have compassion for her. She's chosen to harm millions. She's chosen to harm the whole country. It's outed that she turned a blind eye to these hundreds of millions of dollars that are going into these dark money laundering networks, causing you to starve to death, causing you to go without jobs, causing to harm the economy of the United States of America so they can't produce enough jobs. While she lives high on the hog off your tax dollars on top of that. Disrupting all the good that Congress could be doing by her opposition and defiance and Machiavellianism and dark triad cluster personality problems. Stemming from lack of empathy, hate, apathy, contempt. She's literally, if there ever was a visage of taking up space and wasting space, she is it. Because there could be somebody in there actually trying to do good for other Americans and represent their people. She's not representing her people. She's representing a subset of her people, which is Somalis, Sunni Muslims. And not the conservative ones, because her father's already ingrained it in her that they should all die. They were educated. He was the head of education of why they should die. And supplanting conservative Sunni Muslim beliefs and practices into scientific socialism. This is what she wants to create in the education system in America. She's part of the DEI. DEI is something that has been intended to supersede the Constitution of the United States of America. It is the ultimate evil. And kids in America have been educated into it, just like they did over there. Why? So they can go around and assault and murder, steal, rob, and plunder conservative Americans because they're white. Because they're told and taught that conservative Americans are evil and they're white. Exactly like they did in Somalia. Exactly like USAID funding and Chinese funding commingled to murder those conservative Muslims. Her father carrying out the orders of the generals and his subordinates carrying out his orders to murder hundreds of thousands of innocent people. And do I believe that Muslims can coexist with anybody else in the world? Not really. But that doesn't mean they weren't innocent. They were innocent. They were trying to survive. God created all life. He created their lives. And maybe the gospel of Christ hasn't reached them yet. Maybe it wasn't allowed to. Obviously, they weren't even allowed to exist as conservative Muslims. They were murdered by a totalitarian regime. And that's the exact same kind of mentality that you get from Ilhan Omar. A totalitarian dictator who cares nothing about anybody else's life but her own. It's not the people that she represents that she has harmed. No, every single person in America lost $700 million. That's just one part of it. That doesn't count what happened in other states. Then it was laundered into Chinese underground banking systems. My God, man. My God, man. I'm just going to be honest. This person, if death penalty is the consequence of treason, this kind of person deserves it. This is the kind of person that deserves it, because they're wasting space in Congress. We can't even have voter IDs, so they can continue suborning perjury, so they can continue misprision of felonies by the thousands, by the millions of cases. Every second that she exists is a constitutional injury to the people of the United States of America. And all of that money should be tracked down. And I'm sorry, China. There's so many Chinese people that I love and have had friendships in this country. And I'm quite certain that I would have really good relationships with, at least half of the billion Chinese. So 500 million. I'm sure I would have good relations with all of them. We just get along really well. But to Xi Jinping and to these people in these underground banking networks, we should track them down. Our military should be tracking these things down, and we should be shutting them down. We should be ending them, because they're obviously a threat to the sovereignty, security, safety of America. Obviously, this money is being used for, well, Congress knows. It's published in Congress, for God's sakes. The U.S. Congress, to commit financial crime. Like, how extensive is it across the United States? I hurt my back after a golf tournament once, not that many years ago, to be honest, and it was so bad I could barely breathe. I don't know how I twisted myself, but it doesn't take much. I know a lot of people understand what I'm talking about. But I had to stop on my way home. I had to stop in this little town I'd never been to before, been through, and whatever the nearest massage place was, I had to do something. And it was the only place open because it was after, it was like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. after the tournament ended that day. And I couldn't hardly breathe. So I had to stop. I had to get some kind of like special like stuff called Tiger Balm, and some other things to try to, whatever I could pick up at CVS or wherever it was, some pharmacy that was still open. And I had to go get a massage. It was a Chinese place. There was only one person there. There's a woman. And she was a little bit older, maybe like late 30s, early 40s. And we were just talking while I was crying, bro. I was crying. I was in so much pain. It hurt so bad. I don't even know. You never know how that happens. But however, it was like one of the last swings I took of the day. Anyway, I couldn't finish the round, actually, but I just had to sit in the car until we finished, till everybody else finished in the group. But anyway, I was crying and we were talking, and it was so much pain. But she did a good job, but she told me that she was actually Chinese military. And I was like, wow. In my mind, I thought, oh my God. And I didn't know about all this stuff. I just found out about this a few minutes ago. Like, before I started these videos, I had no idea this even existed. And Congress already knows about it. Oh my gosh. And I was floored. I was floored. I thought, I'll never forget it. And then she kept bragging about how she was Chinese military. She was still serving in the Chinese military. I don't know what town it was. I don't remember anymore. I don't remember I just remember doing that and being there, and my mind was floored. And so now I look at this Hawala network. I look at $700 million cash. I look at all the Burisma billions, hundreds of billions of dollars that went to Ukraine and Burisma, where that money went. My God in heaven, please save us. Please save us. Have pity on us for being so stupid and ignorant. And these people, and the Bible says, walking about as a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour. Talking about Satan, Lucifer, the enemy of God's people. Is that not what all these people are doing? Is that not what all the Democrats are doing who align with this SHIT? Are they not? And to think that there may be a whole Chinese military force on our soil already. This was years ago when that happened. Well, maybe, I'd say 3 or 4 years ago. That tournament and that incident. I don't really remember because, anyway, out of sight, out of mind. But now that this is triggering that memory, that these banking systems are a booming international financial crime. We have massive Chinatowns, LA, New York, Chicago, Atlanta. I don't know, maybe other places. We have Confucius Institutes all over this country. We have these Chinese massage places all over this country. And I'm not saying these, I would say that many of those women are probably trafficked for all I know. And I take that back. I know they are because where I live, there have been news reports locally discovering that these people are being trafficked. These women are being trafficked. Okay? Some of them might be legitimate owners. I'm not saying they aren't. I am saying that it hurts my heart because they're good people. They're God's people. Just like me. I could have been born in their situation. I'm not immune to their pain and suffering that's being caused by people like Ilhan Omar and her family, her progeny, her grandfather, her father. I didn't mean to go off on that tangent. I mean, we're here, multi-layer money pipeline. I mean, the fact that AI can even pull this out from these cursory searches and from these congress.gov websites. It's not conspiracy theory. It doesn't get any more legitimate than that as a source. Multi-layer pipeline. In this scenario, the money never actually flies physically to China. Instead, a process called trade-based money laundering or mirror transactions is deployed. The cash gathering, suitcases of physical U.S. cash from fraudulent domestic schemes are declared and flown from the U.S. to major financial clearing zones like Dubai. I don't know what Karen is. Maybe we can look at that in a second. The Middle Eastern Hawala swap. In Dubai, Somali money-backed brokers, Hawalators. Oh my God. Accept the physical cash. Oh my God. The Chinese underground banking bridge. Simultaneously, wealthy Chinese nationals who want to bypass Beijing's strict $50,000 capital flight laws. See, we have those kind of flight laws. Every country has those kind of capital flight amounts that they can fly with. So to say that $1 million a day is leaving, how many hundreds and hundreds of passengers is that a day leaving St. Paul, Minnesota? That didn't trigger anybody's like, what the heck's going on here? Ugh. But why would it? Because if you have empathy, you don't consider the person you meet and you shake hands with and you smile at, you don't just instantly think they're evil. If you have any shred of empathy at all, you're going to actually naturally think that they're good like you. You're not going to assume they're evil. You're going to assume they're good. You're going to trust that they're a good person. So, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going off again. Here we go. The Chinese underground broker acts as a middleman. Jesus. Lord have mercy. They take the U.S. cash in Dubai and hand it to the Chinese buyers. They buy the cash. Well, they got to make money off of the U.S. cash, so they have to buy it from Somalia Oh my God. Is there any wonder why there's so much inflation? Right? Is it just America, or is there other countries as well? I mean, it's got to be other countries as well. Australia, Europe, UK. There's got to be inflation going on everywhere because of this. The whole reason is because of this, because currency is being devalued because of this. Because once it's out of circulation, you have to print more to replace it. And that devalues it. Right? Am I right or wrong? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I cannot be wrong. That is definitely, that is for sure. I can't be wrong about that. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I am. Put it in the comments. The undisclosed Chinese settlement. To balance the ledger, the equal value is deposited in local Chinese currency into undisclosed domestic Chinese bank account or mobile payment platform controlled by the broker's network. The brokers are Diwali, or what are not Diwali, Hawalators. They're Somali Hawalators, however you say that. Into Somalia mobile banking platform or the broker's network. So this is how, there you go. That's the key. That's how Bernie Sanders, if the allegation is true, this is how he has a Chinese bank account hidden from the IRS with $17 million in it. And in order for Bernie Sanders to keep up there spewing the trash that he spews, and the lies and the perversions and the distortions of reality that this guy is a complete loon. They all are. All the Democrats are complete loons, but they all have these accounts apparently. If he has one, for sure Ilhan Omar has one, and for sure every other Democrat socialist has one. My God. So it's in these local mobile payment platform controlled by the broker. They're in these accounts. This is where they have their money. Yes, it flows through Somalia. My God. It doesn't, right there, it doesn't go to China. It is there in Somalia. Oh my God. The ledger balances, it's not me saying it. That's this money laundering website, WTTL online. These Aon, Karen, this is probably a news source. These are probably legitimate financial websites, okay? AI just happened to link them together based on the question that was asked. Into undisclosed domestic Chinese bank account. Undisclosed domestic Chinese bank account in Somalia. Or this Hawala money broker controlled account. The ledger balances perfectly because they replace the US dollars with yuans. But no money ever crosses an international border. Effectively shielding the transaction from standard Western banking tracking software like SWIFT. Wow. So they wash it, and then they balance ledgers by depositing equivalent local Chinese currency. So that way it's hidden. It's not trackable. Wow. That's why Bernie Sanders can sit there. I'm pretty sure it was Senator Cruz who challenged him about his millions of dollars. And he's denied, I don't know, I wish I knew where it was. Because he thinks it can't be tracked because it's in this Hawalators. And it's balanced in yuan equivalencies in mobile platform payment systems. Apparently, I'm not saying, I'm conjecturing. I'm saying it is, but I'm not really saying it is. This is conjecture. The allegation could be true. If the allegation is true, this is the process by which he could sit there and deny it. And technically he's telling the truth, but it's wrapped up in a lie. You know, if you read Proverbs in the Bible, it talks about that. Okay? Couched in a lie. There's the truth couched in a lie. He can pretend that it doesn't exist because technically it doesn't, because it's in this network. Okay? What types of companies and entities are involved? If this pipeline interacts with regional Chinese interests or neighbors in East Africa, the funding flows through three primary categories of entities: import-export shell companies. Well, now we know why. Earlier in video 1, I'm like, well, why would China what kind of export would be of such high importance to China that it would be tariff-free from Somalia? Well, now we know. Right here it is. It's cash. It's U.S. cash. Import-export shell companies. The most common vehicles are front companies based in Hong Kong or Dubai that deal in high volume, highly liquid commodities like cash. U.S. dollars. My God. This is why we have inflation in the United States and you can't afford anything. And you're running out of money. You have no discretionary income anymore, and your savings has been, oh my God. Laundered cash is often disguised as legitimate business invoices. Oh my God. For bulk shipments of consumer goods, such as being sent to East Africa. The Daiju networks. This refers to informal networks of personal shoppers. Oh my God, buying on behalf of. There's another layer that separates Bernie Sanders from this. Well, if it exists, again, it's an allegation. I'm not saying, but if it is true, this is another layer that would separate him from the scrutiny of the IRS. Underground Chinese banks routinely co-opt these networks to convert dirty cash into high-end Western luxury items, watches, designer goods, maybe vehicles, property. Obviously, property, we saw that earlier. Land ownership, which are then shipped and resold back in mainland China to generate clean, untraceable currency. Sanctioned terrorist remittance from... But why would you trust any of this? Like, why would a criminal trust a criminal instead of a legitimate enterprise like the United States capitalist infrastructure? Why would you trust that over your local bank? Why would you trust that they're going to hold your $17 million and not use it to blackmail you? This is how Burisma happened. They were blackmailing Hunter Biden for access, Chinese access to Joe Biden and political influence over the whole population of the United States. Look at that. This is right here. Right here. Right here it is. And apparently Congress knows about all this stuff. So why haven't we taken... This is a military assault. This is an assault on every single American in the United States. This is not just... This is worse. This is worse than a military invasion. This is worse than Red Dawn, the movie, the original one, because the second one sucked. But, for example, firms like Al Barakat were famously designated by the U.S. and UN for allowing their informal channels to be hijacked by criminal elements and terrorist groups like Al-Shabaab. This is why we're in Iran. By tying these networks, this is why we went down to get Maduro. Because it's all funded by these cubs. Obviously. Which means that it's all funded by people stealing it from the United States and shipping it out of the country. Ilhan Omar, the principal agent, which was funded, her whole refugee life was funded by USAID. It was funded to prop up her dictator, the totalitarian government, her father as a colonel, the whole military regime. It was propped up by USAID. And then when they left and went to Kenya, what's the age difference? I mean, there is an age difference between, I know there's an age difference between Obama and Ilhan Omar, but a big age gap. But he came from Kenya, right? Somehow he's connected to Kenya. Man, if you want to look into specific cases, if you'd like to explore how FinCEN tracks trade, look it up, put it in the comments. Look it up, make it viral. Look it up, add it to the comments below this video. I didn't dive into it, but add it. Chinese money laundering networks, Money Laundering Watch, Karen, how Chinese networks beyond narcotics. God bless. Dark Banking, KCS Group, Somalia Today, U.S. FinCEN Alert puts Somali, Wow. Chinese money laundering, detecting Hawala, LinkedIn. Well, I don't know what that is. Hawala does not move money, but somebody posted something on LinkedIn about Hawala. I wonder what that is. I would like to go, but I've got another question I asked. So this is another thing, okay? Could this also be linked to how suitcases of U.S. photo IDs issued by China are being funded to cross the USA-Mexico border to be distributed in the U.S. to influence elections by getting photo IDs to illegal aliens? Okay, at first it says no. Again, you gotta connect the dots. All right. No, the money laundering leaving U.S. airports do not fund suitcases. Okay. Well, both the illicit cash trails and mass-produced counterfeit IDs represent real, distinct national security issues tracked by federal authorities. So I'm not just making this up. This is actual news. This is actually caught. It is actually happening. That suitcases full of counterfeit photo IDs are entering the United States. Well, who do you think they're being used for? Who do you think's getting them and receiving them? U.S. citizens who already have them? Hell no. Hail. I didn't cuss. H-A-I-L. Hail. No. No, they didn't. No, they're not the ones getting them. What's the purpose of making them? Well, same purpose as Chinese people being remotely involved in throwing and changing votes through Dominion voting systems, having access to them to change votes, throw the elections in 2020. All this has come out, okay? I'm not just spouting stuff that isn't already in the public news arena and already been brought out as evidence in Senate committee hearings. I'm just making stuff up. That's stupid. The fact versus rumor of Chinese issued, okay, massive shipments of counterfeit U.S. photo IDs from China are verified reality. But they enter via a completely different route, serve a different purpose than what the theory suggests, than what we've been talking about above, the Cubs. And so we've answered how Bernie Sanders is linked and has a link to this whole Ilhan Omar and Democrat DSA, attempted overthrow of the United States government. They're all wasting space because they're not doing anything positive for America. They're dividing and attempting to conquer America. That's a national security threat. It is obvious on its face, and it's what comes out of their mouths. And now there's actual real chance that allegation is true. Nick Shirley does some amazing work, and he's been true in every case. He's been right in every case that he's exposed. But Bernie Sanders openly defied and denied that he had millions of dollars in some kind of bank account, and he's a millionaire. So now he's committed perjury. Okay? Because it is actually true. I believe that Nick Shirley is right, because he has a track record of being right. But how could it be possible was my question. It's kind of outlandish, because how does the IRS not know? But now I know how they may not be able to. There's not a paper trail because of how it's the Howalators or whatever. But now we know exactly through Cubs How Bernie Sanders can have an actual Chinese $17 million Chinese account. US dollars, equivalent, but it's in Chinese yuan. Okay? Because it's been washed. All right. AI didn't even discover it. AI discovered it. I just asked the questions. Okay, so U.S. Customs Border, they have seized these things arriving in the mail from China and Hong Kong. For example, officers at Chicago O'Hare and Cincinnati airports have intercepted shipments containing tens of thousands of fake IDs, y'all. Why do you think John Thune is delaying the voter ID vote? It's so they can make and ship these in, so they can get them to people, so they can get them registered with these fake IDs, so they can vote Democrat. How can we trust anything, bro? This is hard. This is rough. This is hard. But now we know why John Thune acts the way he acts, and Lisa Murkowski's part of it. Tom Tillis is part of it. I think I got his name right. I hope I got the right name. We know why all the Democrats are part of it, because they all have Chinese bank accounts, underground bank accounts. And if I were president, you better believe that, one, we're going to have a task force made up of U.S. military agents that's going to go out, and we're going to hunt these things down. We're going to hunt every one of those people down. And if Xi Jinping wants to defend them, there's going to be problems. If he wants to defend corruption, like they're bypassing his own government, if he doesn't want to partner with us to find and shut that shite down, there's going to be problems. There's going to be real problems, like global problems. Because he's betraying the trust of America that buys all their products, that props up their whole country's livelihoods. And if it's not America that's propping them up, if we're not the majority financial resource, all the buyers in America, if we're not the majority, then the majority is corruption. Then if the greater percent is something else, the greater percent is corruption. Because American buyers and Western buyers, Europeans globally buying their stuff, and Australians buying their stuff is what props them up. America first. The greatest, the lion's share. And if there's some other share greater than ours propping all of that communism up, then it's pure corruption. And if they defend the corruption rather than the good-natured intent to seek out and destroy corruption, that's not good. That's crossing a line. That's crossing a line. And if I were president, there would have to be some serious talks. Serious talks. And I mean, like when I say serious talks, I mean life-threatening talks. Because Americans shouldn't be standing up for corruption. First, we would clean our own house. And I already consider the DNC the enemy of the United States, the domestic enemy of the United States. It is the domestic terror network of the United States of America, and it is destroying lives in every facet, from education to financial to spiritual to political. Every social aspect of everybody's lives and freedoms is being destroyed by the DNC. And it started with Obama. And we all know that now. But there's just, these fake IDs are going to destroy elections to overthrow America. Tens of thousands. Look at all those places: Chicago, O'Hare, Cincinnati, coming across our southern border. I watched a news report that Border Patrol at the Mexican border caught multiple suitcases in a shipment. Like, I think it was it wasn't a semi truck, but it was one of those kind of shipping trucks, a big one, kind of like a FedEx but bigger. Okay, and multiple suitcases, thousands upon thousands. They opened them up and showed on the camera. That's all to overthrow America. And these Chinese underground banking systems are funding it with your dollars being stolen through California. 100%, I guarantee you, through California fraud. I mean, Nick Shirley already brought that out as well. That's why they want to enact laws against people and the jail people exposing the fraud. Because China controls California. I wouldn't doubt that China controls Arizona. Katie Hobbs is fraud. I mean, what has gone on with since the new elections with the election board and all that kind of stuff? You can watch a guy named Govea on YouTube. What is that dude's name? But that guy, he's an attorney. He's a criminal attorney. Okay? The guy is a genius. He knows what he's talking about. And anyway, the main target market for these fake IDs, according to federal case files, the vast majority of these Chinese manufactured fake IDs are ordered online directly by domestic college-age students looking to buy alcohol or enter bars rather than transnational migrants crossing the southern border. Whatever. That's a lie. It's just too many to be college-age students. You think we have that many deviant college so desperate? No, you don't. As a matter of fact, it's so you don't even need a fake ID to get alcohol in most places across the country under 21. It just happens. Okay, so a lot of times these places don't even check IDs. So it's not even necessary. It's not even necessary for college-age kids. You can get alcohol underage without ID in the United States. Someone will buy it for you. It's just. It's so stupid to think that college students are, well, I'm going to find somebody online or Chinese, give me a fake ID. No, they don't need it. You know who needs it? Illegal immigrants need it. The unverified ballot plot theory. Okay, yeah, it's unverified. Of course. Declassified, unverified, FBI tips from 2020 detail a potential plot where the Chinese Communist Party purportedly aimed to manufacture fake driver's license and ship them. Well, why would I come up with that question? Why would it be shown on YouTube as a news station, an investigation, and why would they show it? Because it's not unverified. It's verified. It's proven. Okay, AI has to say this kind of crap because information is controlled, and that came out before Trump became president again. There's a reason why Zuckerberg and everybody got sued. Okay. Declassified documents contain unverified intelligence. Federal agencies say election. All right, so they declassified it so everybody can see the evidence. And independent investigators have found no proof that widespread. When you see that word widespread, that's a Democrat talking point to cover up. Fake IDs were used to successfully alter election outcomes. Well, it's being uncovered in New Jersey. Right? New Jersey lied about it. First they said there was nothing, then there was 6,000. Then they came back and said, oh no, it was, there was an error. Oh, okay, yeah, it was an error. And we have found 6,000. It's only 6,000. Because that supports the lie that they've been telling everybody. It's not, first they said there was it's the most secure elections ever. Then they said, there's only a little bit. And then when more information came out, more evidence came out, there's, but it's not widespread. And so New Jersey's been caught in the lie, trying to support the narrative by saying, there was none. And then, that was a mistake. We made a mistake, and that was before I even became in office. And there's 6,000. There was only 6,000, and that happened before I came into office, the New Jersey governor says. And then, because the reason they say only 6,000, because then you can say, oh, well, that's not widespread. But now it's 75,000. Now what's she going to say this time? Well, 75,000 is pretty widespread. Yeah? I think we all agree. I think we can all agree that 6,000 is widespread. Yeah. How the cash trails. If it was only a handful, like 5 or 10, and they all went to jail and prison over it and served time and had to pay restitution, well, then you could say, oh, well, but here's what we did to excoriate that. And they suffered penalties per our laws. No, did she ever say anything like that? No. Because 6,000 is widespread and they did nothing. Because they facilitated it. How did they facilitate it? Well, right here you're finding out. Tens of thousands through multiple ports of entry via airports and border crossings have been discovered. Probably shipping containers as well. Okay? We just haven't heard about it yet. But if they're doing the other two, probably that would be even easier. That's probably why you haven't heard about it. How the cash trails and border networks actually intersect. Well, they said no at first, but here you go. How they intersect. Rather than funding voter ID kits, the intersection between Chinese money laundering networks, the Cubs, and the U.S.-Mexico border is centered entirely on narcotics and human smuggling, fueled by a highly transactional arrangement. The Cartel Connection. You can be certain that if I were ever president, this war on drugs, they talk about how many bombs they dropped and dismantling Iran and everything. You can be certain that those entities who are harming the United States like this and trying to overthrow it, this is an act of global war. You can be certain that there would be a response, a definitive response. The Cartel Connection. According to FinCEN, I just can't stand to even say the word cartel because of their drugs and murder for profit. Murder for profit. That's what it is. It's not to help people have a good time. It's to enslave them. It's to destroy them. Chinese money laundering syndicates operate as professional money launderers, my God, for major Mexican drug cartels like Sinaloa. Good God almighty, bro. But hey, AI makes mistakes. Verify all your facts. The mutualistic swap. Cartels accumulate massive piles of physical U.S. cash from selling fentanyl inside America. Meanwhile, wealthy elites in China desperately want to illegally move their wealth out of China into the West. Oh my God. The Chinese underground network buys the cartel's physical cash in the U.S. and sells those dollars to Chinese clients who want money outside of China. Oh my. You wonder why there's inflation in America? The Democrats support this sheets and pillows. My God. It's hard for me to continue. It's hard for me to continue. I'm so infuriated. Like, I'm so infuriated, I don't feel even mad. I'm so infuriated. It's like beyond the feeling of mad into complete and utter rage. And humans that God created are suffering because of these people. Humans that would otherwise live happy, healthy lives, maybe come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, as their Savior, have a self-actualized experience, grow up into our Heavenly Father, into Christ, into all things, the knowledge and the blessings. But they can't, because the tares the rocks are in the world. The Chinese underground network buys, so this goes back to the Cubs that we saw earlier operating in Somalia and those regional financial networks. To balance the ledger, the Chinese brokers route clean pesos or digital funds straight to the cartels in Mexico. Bro. You know what? 6 years ago, when Joe Biden became president, I said specifically that the Chinese and the Mexicans, the cartels, not the Mexicans, I'm sorry, the cartels of Mexico were working together to overthrow the elections through the Dominion voting systems. This is before, I was instantaneously on top of this. There's just no way. Nobody can. No person believes it. They'll throw out the fiction, just like every criminal says, "I didn't do anything. I've done everything right." They'll throw out all that fiction. But in America's hearts, they all knew. Everyone knew. The majority of America knew. And I went to Facebook. I posted it. And of course, I had no idea, really. But I said, and I said, because of Twitter back then, and all the fake accounts on Twitter back then, and the owner of Twitter was a member of the House of Saud. I said that the House of Saud, China, and Mexico all worked together to overthrow our elections. Because they had to do it through social media, media suppression, like the Hunter Biden laptop story back then, and the Steele dossier back then, and all this BS, and here we are now. Look at this. Look at this. The mutualistic swap. Read it. The Chinese underground network buys the cartel's physical cash. I'm gonna have to look at the sources down below, but this is the same thing. I really don't need to see the sources because it's the same exact thing they do in Somalia. The Chinese underground banking system. Those people, I'm not saying it's China directly. It could be. We don't know. But obviously they have criminals in their country, just like we have in ours. And they are bypassing the $50,000 cash limit, which is what makes them criminals. Okay? But to balance the ledger, Chinese brokers route clean pesos or digital funds straight to the cartels. Straight to the cartels. Straight to the cartels. Can I emphasize that anymore? Straight to the cartels. So, let's read again. Wealthy elites in China desperately want to illegally move their wealth out of China into the West. They want to do it illegally, so they don't have to pay taxes. The Chinese underground network, the underground banking system, buys the cartel's physical cash in the US and sells, so they have to buy them for less than what the US dollar, less than, so let's say it's a suitcase full, $20 million. So they have to buy it for something less, like, because they have to sell it. Okay, so they have to buy it for something more in the US. So they can sell it for less in China, in yuan. And to balance it, it has to make sense to be profitable, because then they balance that, balance the ledger. The Chinese brokers route clean pesos or digital funds straight to the cartels in Mexico. So the people in the United States then profit the most because they have to get it at a premium. They buy the US dollars at a premium, then sell them for less than what they would normally exchange rate in order to get a profit from the sell less in yuan, and then to make a profit from the yuan to pesos, have to sell it for less pesos than what it would have originally been exchanged for. But all that to bypass the IRS. and whatever Swift tracking systems. And so the people in Mexico are perpetually impoverished because of Chinese underground banking systems abusing the system. Apparently. I'm just saying that's what it seems like. This is just a thought experiment. It's complete conjecture, but based on what I'm reading here. And I could have it all wrong. I could have this whole conjecture wrong, but that's what it seems like. This underground loop is built purely for financial profit. So every time it exchanges, it has to exchange for half or lower than, so that they can get a profit off of every exchange. So then the last man standing, which would be Mexico, is the one suffering the most. Right? This underground loop is built purely for moving wealth and buying fentanyl precursor chemicals from Chinese suppliers, not for political engineering at the border. Okay. Well, but the fake photo IDs are. All right. Strict voter registration barriers. Yeah, of course they're going to say this on the surface. Oh, they're strict. This is what all the Democrats say, right? This is all the Democrat talking points. But the fraud goes on. New Jersey's proved it. The gerrymandering of Virginia proved it. The LA mayoral race proved it on its face in real time for everyone to watch. The federal law, so I don't even need to read all that. While the flow of illicit money through networks like Hawala and Chinese underground banking successfully hides billions of dollars. They hide billions of dollars. This is why you have so much inflation in the United States. And it's been going on since 2020. But before that, it began with Obama. Remember when Obama said, you're going to have to get used to those higher pump prices? And they used some kind of conflict with Russia or something or other. Oh, we got to have a trade embargo on Russia, and so we got to raise your gas prices because of that, because of some place in Russia where we don't even get oil from, and we got our own pipelines and everything. You know, no, you got to pay higher prices. The whole point, it was all a scam. It was all a scam. So they could pull money out of the U.S. system and flow it through this network. How much was it that was it $1 trillion? How much was it that Obama gave in pallets of cash to Iran? The most ridiculous thing. Well, now you know why. Pallets of cash under Obama went to Iran. It's to fund terrorism and to fund the coming overthrow of the United States under Joe Biden. It would have been Hillary Clinton, but somehow Trump beat Clinton. And then after 4 years of that, Obama came in. Behind the proxy, Biden. All right. So in order to do that, they had to invent the Russia collusion. Okay. And then they had to try to bury Trump under lawsuits, fake lawsuits, all of them, by the way, so that they could continue with their plan. So the Clintons were part of the plan to overthrow the United States of America. Clinton Foundation money. My God. Okay, did I ask any more questions? So FinCEN.gov, on Congress, U.S. House Financial Services. There you go. Oversight and investigations. That's where all those sources come from that up there. Well, your strict voter registration response is based on false reporting. Okay, now, then I gave it evidence, but then look what it came up with then. This is it. About voter registration barriers and fraud. Look at that. For questions regarding election integrity, voter registration, and official vote tallies, please consult official government resources. So it won't even respond. It is not allowed to respond when you bring up voter fraud. Okay. Then I edited it, and I added New Jersey being the most recent. Okay. I rephrased it, and I got two sources. ACLU, of course. For information regarding voter registration and election security in New Jersey, please check blah, blah, blah. Can someone vote using a fake ID without being on the rolls? No, but yes, they can. Does not allow an individual. Of course, they don't allow it, but they allow it. Precinct rosters, provisional paper ballots. See, please check official. Please check official. Please check official. This cover up. I cited more votes than registered. Allegations that states have recorded more total votes than registered voters have consistently been traced by state election divisions to administrative lag. It's not denied. Rather than physical ballots matching a surge of unregistered voters. Sorry, this is all a cover up. Okay, that's classic doublespeak, classic deflection, classic. I'm not going to tell you anything except the official statement. Cover up. I'm not asking about Jersey. I'm using it as a most recent case. However, it has been reported that many sanctuary states in U.S. persons can obtain mail-in ballots without verification online by simple signature. So there, theoretically, it is no stretch. Now, because I rephrase it like this, it's no stretch of the imagination to assume that fake photo IDs across the fraudulently and they wouldn't exist. Naturally, that's logical. They're not going to exist to go to actual people who have U.S. IDs and using them legitimately. I said you cannot use a fake photo ID legitimately. The core premise that counterfeit photo IDs are inherently intended for fraudulent use is factually correct. Of course it is, as they have no legitimate purpose. So yes, everything up here is actually true, because that's why you would need them. Of course you're going to have people using fake IDs to vote and to get on voter rolls, but they don't even have to be on a voter roll. They just show up with an ID and an address and they'll let them vote. That's how corrupt it is. Okay, we're about done. Southern border influx, transnational criminal awareness cartels use fake documents to facilitate human smuggling and evade law enforcement checks. Police check official, blah blah blah. Mailing ballot verification work, blah, and that's it. All right, so now you've got a college level education over 3 1-hour videos about the question. My original question was. Okay, it's not, I don't have it pulled up anymore, but my original question was, yeah, that's all I have to say. Is how Bernie Sanders could possibly have a foreign Chinese bank account, if that's possible, because, he denied it openly in a Senate committee hearing. Under scrutiny by, pretty sure it was Ted Cruz. If it's not, is the incoming DOJ guy, I forget his name, or Director of National Intelligence to replace Tulsi Gabbard, that guy. It was, he brought it up, maybe. He may have been, I keep saying Ted Cruz, but he might have been the one. But it was at a Senate committee hearing, and everybody laughed when he's like, well, I wish I knew who it was. Well, now we're laughing because we know exactly how China has underground banking systems where that $17 million is, if it's true that he has it, the alleged account is held, could be held without IRS finding it. Okay. Anyway, there you go. So, investigative report. I don't really go out and do anything. I'm just a mean guy. This is Coalmine Canary signing off.